Good afternoon, my name is Jim Sternhell, and today it is my pleasure to share with you my technique for dealing with migraines and cluster headaches. This technique is only of any use for migraines and cluster headaches. Will do absolutely nothing for the pain, say from a cancer, and it certainly won't cure a hangover. What you do for a hangover is you drink lots of water. That's a very simple one, and that will help. But today is all about migraines and cluster headaches. It's a very simple technique, and it might annoy some of the medical profession because it requires no drugs and no equipment. It costs absolutely nothing. So do share it with your friends, make copies, share it around before it gets taken down from the internet. Before I start, I've got to make the old politically correct disclaimer: if pain persists, see your medical professional. Not that I have a single politically correct bone in my entire body. I studied dentistry here at Sydney University many years ago, and I remember in that lovely old building behind us, endless, rather horrendous migraines in histology prac. Was it the stuffiness of a lab, or was it the glare from staring down microscopes? It doesn't matter. I had endless, horrible migraines back in the old uni days. The technique itself is terribly simple. It really is a bit of a mind over matter. The brain decides what inputs it's going to accept and what it's going to reject as background crap. And the more you concentrate on the headache, the worse it gets, until you eventually wind up landing in hospital. The thump of the blood vessels in your brain here, they're always there. But when things go a bit haywire from, say, low blood sugar, chocolate, MSG, whatever the trigger is for you, you start noticing it, and the more you concentrate on it, the more the brain thinks it wants to know about the headache, not that it really does want to know about the headache. So the secret is you concentrate on anything but the headache, and that can be things like a really stimulating conversation where you have to really think about the answer and just think right in there about that answer and just forget about the headache. The easiest and most practical really is something visual. I call it a visually sumptuous feast, and it can be like looking at a beautiful piece of jewellery, a lovely opal, a really detailed photograph, and you stare right into that, absorb as much information as you possibly can out of that, anything but thinking about the thump. Interestingly, if you knock over the headache very quickly, you don't get a hangover. The more you've had the rotten migraine for, the longer the hangover you get afterwards. Some of the other techniques I use, one of my favourites is I rub my hands, get a nice little friction heat, I put it over my eyes, which is very soothing on a good day, that warmth on the eyes, and I stare into the random light flashes you get, so it'd be pretty useless for a visual migraine, and just concentrate on that. That's quite useful. Another one, I can make my ears ring. That's another one where it's always there, but like in a quiet room you suddenly start noticing a thing. And I put my hands over my ears, make the ears ring, concentrate on the ringing of the ears, and just forget about the headache, and that works quite nicely too. Very easily done, can be done anywhere. Another good one is I pinch between my nostrils. I pinch really hard, get a pain on that, and I concentrate on the pain of that. Of course, I can just let go of it, and it stopped. Another one which I've been experimenting with lately, which is quite useful, I flick between my eyebrows. Not that I have any eyebrows. Flick, and that little short, sharp zing is a nice little distraction. Even better if you can get someone else to give you a little flick there. Quite a useful technique, and once again, it costs absolutely nothing. A little analogy for all this is the mainstream media. All we ever hear in the mainstream media is who's bonking who in Hollywood, sport, and half-truth. You concentrate on that rubbish and yeah, you're going to go down too. You have to concentrate on real alternate inputs, things like InfoWars, Drudge, or Fair Dinkum Radio, anything but the trash. If you think about it logically, you have a group of cavemen, they're out there on the African plains and they're chucking spears at antelopes, and Og's got a migraine, and he says to his mate, "Oh, hey guys, I've got this migraine, I just need to chill out for a couple of hours under this cool shady acacia tree while this migraine evaporates." Well, we do know what's going to happen to Og, don't we? That's right, Og's going to become cat food. So it's quite impractical for caveman to be getting a migraine. Interestingly enough though, as that lion's about to bite Og's head off, that 100% concentration, beep, and about to get the head bitten off, his migraine's gone immediately. A little bit drastic though. One sort of proof of this concept is, I was mentioning this technique to a patient a while back, and he said, all you have to do is to cut off the blood supply to your brain. Well, we just so happened to have been sharing some rather nice vodka at the time, and it just given me an early migraine, and he just incrementally just cut off the blood supply to my brain, which is a little bit radical because some people can faint, that migraine was gone in literally a heartbeat. So what that shows is that the concept of migraines simply is not correct. All this business, oh, you've got the vasodilatation of the arteries and it leaches fluid and the pressure of the fluids causes the pressure. Nah, that's a load of rubbish. The fact that you can knock off a migraine literally in a heartbeat shows that something very drastically wrong. So do try these techniques and variants of the techniques. What works for me may not necessarily work for you. Put your experiences and your comments in the comments below, because communication is what it's all about. That's what humanity is all about, is sharing ideas so that we can live and grow and progress in the jungle that is this planet. So hopefully this is of some use to you, and you too can get rid of your migraines as easily as I have in the last few years. It's a pity I couldn't come up with this when I was at university. I was always saying, whoever comes up with a cure for migraines will get a Nobel Prize. Yes, unfortunately it was about 30 years too late that I had my epiphany and this cure, and as I said, it is my pleasure to share this technique with humanity so that you can be hopefully pain-free as I am now when I do get the odd migraine. Have a good day.